Welcome to Hack the Entrepreneur, the show which reveals the fears, habits, and inner battles behind big-name entrepreneurs and those on their way to joining them. Now here is your host, John Naster.
Today's episode of Hack the Entrepreneur is brought to you by DesignCrowd, a website that helps startups and small businesses outsource or crowdsource custom graphics, logos, and web design from over 500,000 designers around the world. Check out designcrowd.com/hack. DESIGNCROWD.com/hack to learn more. Plus, you will receive a special $100 VIP offer when you start your next project. That's designcrowd.com/hack. Hey, this is Hack the Entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am your host, John Naster, but you can call me Johnny. My guest today is an author, world traveler, journalist, and an entrepreneur. He's the founder of MWI, a digital marketing firm with offices in Hong Kong, Singapore, China, and the United States. He has written over 200 articles for publications like Forbes, Inc., Mashable, TechCrunch, Entrepreneur, and Time. And he's the author of the recent book, Chief Marketing Officers at Work. Now, let's hack Josh Steimle. All right, just before we jump into today's interview, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, the Dollar Shave Club. You don't need to choose between price and quality to get an amazing, affordable shave. DollarShaveClub.com is the answer. To prove how amazing their shave really is, right now, they are giving you your very first month free to join the club. DollarShaveClub.com delivers amazing razors right to your door for a third of the price of what those greedy razor companies charge. Seriously, I have no reason to deal with the drugstore hassle and battle the locked up razor fortress ever again. And neither will you when you join the club. Go to DollarShaveClub.com and pick up a razor that works for you from their lineup of amazing blades. That's all there is to it. And you get a first-class shave with the executive blade. And when you use it with their Dr. Carver's shave butter, the blade just gently glides over the smoothest shave ever. Here's your chance to see why over 3 million members love Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club is so confident in the quality of their products, now you can get your first month of the club absolutely free. Just pay shipping. After that, it's just a few bucks a month. No long-term commitment, no hidden fees. There's no reason not to do it. Get yours at DollarShaveClub.com/hack. That's DollarShaveClub.com/hack. We're back with another episode of Hack the Entrepreneur, and today we have a very, very, very special guest. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
It's totally 100% my pleasure, Josh, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. You're a Dinosaur Jr. fan, so how can we go wrong?
Exactly. Anybody who likes Dinosaur Jr. can't be all bad, right?
Exactly. All right, Josh, let's jump into it. Josh, as an entrepreneur, can you tell me what is the one thing that you do that you feel has been the biggest contributor to your successes so far?
I think it's more what I don't do. I think I've done a decent job of resisting my ego and my pride, which is kind of a hard thing to say because as soon as I say that, then I sound kind of proud, don't I? But I've tried to maintain an open mind and not get too full of myself. And fortunately or unfortunately, that's been pretty easy to do because I've been pounded into the ground by experience quite a bit. And that's taught me to keep an even keel. And so I look at things and I always think there's got to be a better way to do things. I'm open-minded. I think I'm pretty good at taking feedback from other people. And I think that's helped me to progress in my business because I haven't gotten stuck.
And you think that has to do with keeping your pride in check? Or is it just that whole taking the defeat and not taking it personally, maybe?
Yeah, there's that side of it too. I mean, I've had a lot of rough spots in my business due to mistakes that I've made, due to circumstances. And I didn't let that get me down. Even when the times are bad as an entrepreneur, I think you know when you're a real entrepreneur because even when things are bad, you still don't seriously consider doing anything else. It's the only life that you can imagine living. But this whole thing with ego and arrogance and pride, when I was a very young entrepreneur just getting started, I had a meeting with a venture capitalist and he was talking to me and saying, it's unusual to see a founder who can make it through all the different stages of a business and grow a business until it's a large company. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, it's arrogance. It's running a business that has 10 people is different than running a business with 50 people is different than running a business with 500 people. And you have to adjust at every stage. And if you're arrogant, you think you already know. So then you can't learn how to run these different businesses. And I took that to heart and I said, okay, if arrogance is the Achilles heel, then that's what I need to watch out for. And I need to keep telling myself that I need to be humble and I need to be open to new ways of looking at things. And I think that served me pretty well.
Yeah. And I think that that's true, right? I mean, the whole 5 people to 10 to 50 to 500 they're completely different businesses. But I think if you keep, like you said, like that sort of that humbleness to it, but then, and so knowing that you don't know maybe like at 5 people what it takes to be to 500, that doesn't mean you couldn't grow to that yourself personally as the founder though. I think if you have that sort of pride to it and want to, I think, ask the right questions and know that you have to change and learn. I've seen people do it, right? So it's an interesting concept though.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's just challenging for a lot of people. It's embarrassing to admit that you don't know or that you're entering uncharted territory, right? So it's hard to, I mean, those are some of the hardest words for people to say. I don't know.
Exactly. I've heard it said, I think it was a 6-month process that I heard it described as. It was like 2 months of the CEO founder. It's like 2 months of knowing what you're doing. Then it's 2 months of doing that same thing, but realizing that that's not what your company needs anymore because it's grown. And then it's 2 months figuring it out and learning what it is you need for the next stage. And then it's that other 2 months of then you get to do it for 2 months. And then your company's grown past you again and you haven't realized it yet. And it's like this constant cycle of...
That sounds about right.
You are exactly the right thing for your company for 2 months every 6 months. The other 4 months are realizing that you're not smart enough and don't know enough anymore. And then the other 2 months is figuring it out.
Yep.
And I was like, that's an interesting way to look at it. And I think that you have that in you, it seems. So that's awesome.
Well, I hope so. I'm trying.
So let's go back if we can, Josh. You're on the other side of the world right now, like in China, literally 12 hours away from me, where I'm in the Eastern time zone. So you couldn't be farther from me, which is really cool. And your business, I'm assuming, allows you to do this. So let's go back if we can to try and figure out when you started this whole journey. Because there seems to be this time in every entrepreneur's life when they've realized that they either had this calling to make this huge difference in the world, or they just found they couldn't work for somebody else anymore. So take us back to the start of your entrepreneurial journey and then tell us which side of the fence you see yourself on.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to really when I was a child and I was selling newspapers and I was doing things, hustling to make extra money on the side. I can see now that it goes all the way back there. But I think I really woke up to entrepreneurship when I was a college student. And this was back in 1999. I was working for a .com, and the .com era was just crazy. I mean, there's never been anything like it before. I don't think there'll ever be anything like it again. But it was just this hyped time period. And I was working for this .com and I was watching these guys who were just a year or two older than me running this business, meeting with VCs, flying all over the place. And I looked at that and here I am getting paid $13 an hour working for them as a web designer. And I looked at them and I thought, man, they're having all the fun. Like, I want to do that. I want to build a business. And so I worked for these guys for 5 months. And then they came to me and they said, we want you to drop out of school and work for us full time. We'll give you stock options in the very first round of stock options in the business. And I looked at that and I said, no, I don't want to drop out of school. And I think I'll just go start my own business. And so I quit that company, started my own business, stayed in school. And then by the time I graduated, I had a company and 10 employees and was running this thing. And I was living my dream of running a business. And that was it. I couldn't go back. And I had just it's funny because I got a master's degree. And so I spent all this time in school and I thought, well, if I went to all this school, I need to go to at least one interview. I mean, what did I just go to all this school for? So I went to an interview with, I think it was with Dell Computers. And I walked in there and right off the bat, the guy asked a question that revealed that I was running my own business. He asked something about what I was doing and I had to answer, well, I'm running a business and I've got 10 employees. And he said, why are you here? Why are you here in this interview? And I said, I don't know. I just went through all these years of school and I felt like I had to do at least one interview. And he said, well, thank you, but you're wasting my time. And he kicked me out. I said, well, there we go. That's my one interview. And yeah, this running my own business, this is the only job I've ever kept more than 5 months. I've either quit every other job or been fired from every other job. So I guess I'm only made to work for myself.
Yeah, I was going to say that answers the question of, do you consider yourself unemployable? Which I'm assuming it is, especially because at the beginning you said that you're an entrepreneur when the times get tough, you never think of, oh, I should just go get a job. It's just, no, like, what am I going to do to fix this problem? That's just how we think. And I'm assuming you didn't get a master's degree in business?
It was information systems management. So it was half technology and half business.
Wow, cool. And has it helped you? Business school? Did business school help you while running a business now?
You know what? I graduated in 2002 and I still feel like the jury's out on that. I feel I don't have a good sense of what I got out of school. I mean, I enjoyed it. I liked going to school. And despite being on academic probation for part of it, but I enjoyed the learning and the progression. But I often look back on it and I feel like the most valuable thing I got out of school is I know what other MBAs and people with master's degree in business know. And I know that they don't know that much. And so that gives me more confidence as I operate my business and I meet with other people. I know, hey, just because you've got an MBA, it doesn't mean you know everything.
That's good. I like that. Really, nobody knows what they're doing. They're just winging it the whole way. It's just... Yeah,
that's the big secret is all of us are kind of just scrambling around, running by the seat of our pants, trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't even say that, but it's true. But it's absolutely true. No, it doesn't matter what level you get to, you realize that everybody around you is just, they're at their peak right now and they're trying to figure it out as well. So at the beginning, you said that your one thing is you can do a decent job of resisting your ego, right? So now every expert in business talks about the 80-20 rule. You're supposed to do the 20% and then get the 80% results. You're supposed to do what you're good at and you're supposed to delegate the rest. Josh, can you please tell me something that you are absolutely not good at in your business?
Yeah, the challenging thing for me is I like doing everything. And I think that I can be good at everything. And so it makes it hard to delegate because I enjoy doing all this other stuff. But I went from 2003 to 2013 for 10 years. I basically was failing at my business. I went for 4 years. I didn't pay myself a dime out of the business. And I was living in this tiny studio apartment above a garage with my wife. And we were just dirt poor. And so after about 10 years of failing, I realized I need help. I need a partner. I need somebody to come in here. And I knew that I needed help with sales. I enjoyed sales, but I realized I needed somebody better at it than I was. And so in 2013, I searched and I found a partner, brought him in, and it's made all the difference in the world. I just delegated all that deal closing stuff to him. And he's done a fantastic job. And that's been a huge part of the growth we've experienced over the past 2-3 years.
Wow. I like this. So it's funny, you sort of struggle with the delegation because you like to do everything, but then you realize you had this weakness in sales. How from like the realization point of this weakness, how did you sort of begin the process to even remotely find potential candidates to be a partner?
It took me a year to find somebody. I was talking to everybody I knew. I was asking for references. I was saying, who do you know who's good at this, who could fit in with my business and be a partner? And I looked everywhere, and I was interviewing people I didn't know, just people I found on LinkedIn who looked like they had good qualifications after I exhausted talking to everybody I knew and going through word of mouth. And the funny thing is, I actually ended up hiring my brother-in-law, which I swore I would never work with family. I would never hire anybody from my family or a friend to work with me. And here I ended up hiring my brother-in-law, and we're partners now in the business, and it's worked out fantastically well. But I would still warn people against doing that.
How come you would warn people against it if it worked out fantastic for you?
I just think it's so risky. I mean, if you go into business with family and then things don't work out, it makes family reunions really awkward, and it's a risky proposition. Well, that's true. But it's just a risk to work with family. I mean, you risk that relationship, and I've seen relationships go sour because of business stuff. And so we knew that we were taking a risk, but it was a gradual thing. I hired him as a consultant at first just to give me advice, a little bit here, a little bit there. Then I said, hey, let's get you working for me part-time. And then it was just one step at a time. Finally, it worked up to the point where I said, hey, Corey, you need to be my partner in this. I want to give you half this business because I see the value you bring, and we've been working together and it's working out well. And we both felt like we could get into business with each other. And if things started not going well, we could walk away from it and not have it affect our relationship, which again, I think it's still risky, but so far it's working out great.
Nice. I like that. So it was a gradual process from consulting. Was he already doing like sales for somebody else?
He had been doing the summer sales stuff. So he's selling pest control and alarm systems door to door, and which doesn't seem like it would fit to do sales for a digital marketing agency, but it's worked out really well, actually, the training that he received. And of course, he had to deal with a lot of rejection, so he doesn't mind getting no's from people. But it's really worked out well. And then he just has some natural ability too. He's an entrepreneurial type of guy. He's got raw leadership potential. And so there were other things that fit really well with what I needed in the business.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, if you can go door to door and try and sell stuff, then I think you can probably sell in the digital world, because I think we fail to realize how hard it is to go do those kinds of things. Like sending cold emails and even phone calls just aren't the same as like banging on someone's door.
Oh, yeah. I mean, any sort of sales, I think, is easier than door-to-door sales. I don't know of anything that's harder than door-to-door sales.
Exactly. So, I mean, everybody trying to sell software or digital products should probably go bang on some doors first just to realize what real rejection feels like.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move to projects if we can, Josh. You recently put out a new book. We can talk about that if you want as the project, or just a project in general. But I would like to know, as your business grows, as you now have a partner, it's probably changed how you decide on a project, but I would like to know like what your process is and whether it's a written process or just an internal gut process. But what is the process that you go through right now when an idea comes to you or is brought to you? How do you determine if it's worth yours and your team's time, energy, and resources?
Sure. Well, let's talk about writing, because I do a lot of writing. I write a lot of articles for different publications. And so that's a lot of where my time goes these days, is focusing on that. And of course, there are thousands of ideas that I could write about, companies I could write about, people I could write about, but I have limited time. So I have to filter things out and say, okay, what should I be focusing on? Over the past 3 years, I've written over 200 articles for Forbes, Mashable, TechCrunch, a bunch of other publications. And I started looking back on that, and I started to look at which articles were just fun for me and which articles were actually doing something for my career, for my business, helping me to achieve the goals I had. And once I started looking at that, I realized I've spent a lot of time writing articles that I enjoyed, but they weren't part of my goals in life. They weren't directed towards anything that I really wanted to achieve. And so I've stepped back from doing that. And now when an article comes to me, the first thing I ask is, what are my goals, and which goal does this article support? Which goal does this article help me achieve? And if I can't figure that out, then I pass on that article and I move on to the next article idea. Once I have an article idea, then it goes into this production process where I say, okay, I need to do some research. I want to bring in some facts. I want to get some people to quote in this article to add credibility to it, so it's not just me spouting off my own ideas. And I start gathering that information. And once that information's gathered, and I have assistants who help me out with that, then I go in and I kind of craft the connective tissue that holds all that together and makes it flow. And that's the part I really enjoy, is just the craft of writing and how things are phrased and how things are formatted. And then once it's done, and I send it off to the editor or publish it or put it wherever it needs to be.
Interesting. So you say that it's about the deciding what your goal is for your company, right? Or what it is for you personally. Is this something that how often do you sort of revisit this goal? Because it's 200 articles is a lot of articles. It's a lot of time, especially when you're talking research and assistance and editing, all these things. How often are you sort of revisiting what your goals are? Or do you have multiple goals that different avenues you could write in are going to be able to help you with?
I have multiple goals, and so I measure everything that I do. And this goes for everything, not just writing, but any activity that comes in front of me that's professional related. I look at that and I say, how does this help me achieve my goals? Because I know I've got really limited time and I feel like I'm getting old and stuff. So I feel like, I don't have time to mess around anymore. If something doesn't support my goals, I need to pass on it. I need to focus on these goals I want to achieve. So every activity that comes in front of me, I look at it and I say, which goal does this help me achieve? If it doesn't help me achieve one of those goals, it's got to be eliminated. And so I have goals for the business. I have other books I want to write. I want to go back to school someday and do a PhD program. So there are all these goals that I have. And so I look at any article or anything else and I say, how does this fit in? Or does it not fit in? And if it doesn't fit in, why am I doing this?
Interesting. And then, the metrics I'm assuming are going to be based on what your exposure to people, right? Either people you're writing about or people that are going to be reading what you're writing. I'm fascinated by this because I've written for some publications, and after doing it for a while for certain publications, you start to wonder if it is worth it further down the line.
Yeah, so I've had some articles I've written where I definitely wondered if it was worth it because only a few hundred people read it, whereas other articles I wrote, maybe they got 10 or 20,000 views, and then I write something else and it gets 300 views, and I think, boy, that was a lot of work for nearly as much results as I got on these other articles. And then there are articles I've written where it has contributed directly to my business growing. So a few years ago, I wrote an article for Forbes about how to hire an SEO firm. And when I wrote that article, our business just exploded. We just started getting tons of emails, phone calls, all sorts of leads coming in, because when people need to hire an SEO firm, they go into Google and they type in how to hire an SEO firm, and there popped up my article. They'd read it and they'd say, hey, this guy's talking about how to hire an SEO firm. He runs an SEO firm. Let's just go hire him. And so we just got tons of leads off that one article. That one article, I can say, generated at least $2 million in revenue for us. Just that one single article on Forbes, which wasn't my intent necessarily when I wrote it. I had no idea it would be that big. I just thought, well, hey, I know something about hiring SEO firms because I've run one for a long time. And here's some of the mistakes that I see people make when they're hiring them. And man, that article just blew up and became a huge moneymaker for my business.
That's impressive. And then how does that now change, learning that, how does that now change what you write from now on?
Well, yeah. So of course I went out and I said, well, how do I duplicate this? How do I duplicate this success and do it again? And I'm sorry to say, I have not figured that out. I've actually written a very similar article to that and published it in other places, and we don't get nearly the leads. So it was that combination of that article being on Forbes was this magic chemistry to generate leads for us. And I have had measure of success with other articles, but nothing like that one.
That's impressive. Yeah. If you can start duplicating that, then yeah, that's impressive. That's cool. That's smart. How to hire an SEO firm. And there you are. All right, Josh, this has been an absolute blast, man. I do want to wrap up with one final question for you, if we can.
Sure.
This idea I'm working with calling the entrepreneurial gap. So you said you you started out at a young age, sort of like hustling to make money. But then in college in 1999, you started a business. You realized this is what you wanted to do. So that's 17 years now, full-time as an entrepreneur. So you've done a lot of things, but as entrepreneurs, as dreamers, you and myself together, we oftentimes project our successes always in front of us and into the future, meaning that no matter what you accomplish personally, you won't be a success until 1 month from now when you get to hit that certain metric, or in 6 months when you get to release that book, or in 2 years when you get your PhD like you want. But we both know that right before you do those things, you're going to set bigger, loftier goals into the future. So we end up in this gap where doesn't matter what we accomplish, it's just not enough. So I would love it if you could right now stop and look behind you at the last 17 or so years of this journey, the highs, the lows, the wins, and the losses, and tell me how you feel about all of it up until today.
I mentioned that I went for 4 years without getting paid. That was from 2003 to 2007. And that was the darkest time of my life, the darkest time in my professional career. It was a huge low point. I felt like a failure. I felt like no matter what I did, it didn't work out. And I came to the conclusion in 2007 that I needed to be happy regardless of my circumstances, and that being happy was a choice. And so I decided before everything got fixed, I'm just going to be happy with the circumstances as they are. I'm going to find joy in the small wins and what I have. I'm going to be grateful for what I have and not focus on what I don't have. And I guess that attitude changed some other things, because it wasn't too long after that things started turning around for the business and things became successful. And since then, that taught me a lesson. That taught me that if I want to be happy, I can be happy regardless of the circumstances. I don't have to let myself get down just because the circumstances are bad. I can choose my reaction within those circumstances. And so since then, whenever things get bad, we have challenges. I mean, today I had to fire somebody. I hate firing people. That just is terrible and it feels bad. That's a low point. And yet at the same time, I love being an entrepreneur. I love that there are challenges like that. I love that there are hard times, because that gives meaning to what I do. If everything were easy, then why bother doing it? But it's those challenges, it's the low points, it's times when you say, man, this stinks. This business is terrible. It's those points that make the other points where everything's working out so great and so wonderful and so euphoric, because you're like, oh, this is awesome now. And it's not like those hard times, but even in those hard times, you still, I think as an entrepreneur, you still have joy in those moments, because you realize it's all part of this holistic experience. And it's the lows and the highs combined that make it interesting and fun and exciting.
Beautiful answer. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, Josh, we've got to talk about your business in passing. So now, could you please specifically tell the listener where they can find out more about your business, and then where they can also track you and your book down online?
Sure. So my business is mwi.com, and my personal website is joshsteimle.com. I have links to all my articles there, and I write blog posts there and have courses up on how to become an influencer and stuff like that. And all my social media links are there and such, and links to my book, Chief Marketing Officers at Work. That's there as well.
Excellent. How's the book going?
It's good. I mean, this is my first time publishing a book. It's a new experience. I'm going through this process of marketing it and trying to get it out there. And it's a very interesting experience. And I've learned a lot of lessons that I'm going to apply to the next book. That's for sure.
Nice. So it's Chief Marketing Officers. So you interviewed 29, I believe, chief marketing officers from brilliant digital companies, right?
Yeah. So I had the amazing privilege of interviewing chief marketing officers from companies like GE, PayPal, Spotify, Target, Home Depot. I mean, I still look at the cover of the book. I'm like, I can't believe I was able to get a hold of these people. Like, this is amazing. And I got to spend an hour with each of these people and ask them all these questions about marketing and how they got to where they are and what they predict the future of marketing is going to be. I mean, it was just mind-blowing having these interviews and feeling like, man, I'm just this little guy running this little agency, and I'm talking to these amazing people with these amazing careers. And so those interviews are all packed into this book, and I think it's great stuff. And I can say that without it being my ego, because it's not me, it's them. They gave me great content to put together into this book.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to recommend that book. If you were interested at all in marketing your digital products or your digital company, then that would be the book for you. Josh Steimle is JoshSteimle.com. MWI.com is the digital agency that Josh is the founder of. Forbes, How to Hire an SEO Firm. We're going to track down the link to that article so we can check it out. And at Josh Steimle is on Twitter. if you want to check it out. I will link to all that in the show notes at hacktheentrepreneur.com for you for whenever you're done working out, walking, jogging, whatever it is you're doing right now. Josh, once again, thank you so much, man, for taking the time to stop by. Thanks for sharing so openly. And please just keep doing what you're doing because it's awesome and inspiring to watch.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This has been great.
Absolutely my pleasure. Josh, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for being so open. I really appreciate it. I hope you out there listening, I hope you got as much out of that conversation as I did. Josh has been at this entrepreneurship game, I think, for 17 years at this point, which is really cool. We got to veer off into some rock and roll talk for a little bit there, which is always fun. But we've reached the point in the show, that point where I get to go back. I get to go back and listen again to the conversation. So I did. And then I went back again. Then I went back one more time. And then I went back one more time. That fourth time through this conversation, there was something that Josh said to me that stood out so very, very, very clearly. It was it. It was that one thing. Did you get it? Did you hear it? Let's do it. Let's find the hack.
From 2003 to 2013, for 10 years, I basically was failing at my business. I went for 4 years. I didn't pay myself a dime out of the business. And I was living in this tiny studio apartment above a garage with my wife, and we were just dirt poor. And so after about 10 years of failing, I realized I need help. I need a partner. I need somebody to come in here. And I knew that I needed help with sales. I enjoyed sales, but I realized I needed somebody better at it than I was.
And that's the hack. Josh. This is good. I love this. Josh just admitted to us that he basically failed at business for 10 years. Made no money, lived above a garage with his wife. Can't believe his wife put up with that. I can't believe they put up with the things they do. But but besides that point, it took him that long to realize that he needed help, that he needed a partner. This is my call to you to work with other people, partner with other people, do whatever it takes to not live that 10 years of failing. This isn't about like having just a portion of something that you're going to create and having a partner and blah, blah, blah. This is about two people together with opposite strengths, like strengths from both sides of the equation are, you're not just 2 times better. You're exponentially better. It's so powerful and it's a thing that I bet you if Josh could sit down with you right now and like he just kind of did and told you about this 10 years of struggle and how he just light switch just flipped in his head and he said, I need to get help. And I'm pretty good at sales, but I need somebody better. I need somebody who can really take over and do it. And he gave away a portion of his business to do that. And now he has a brilliantly successful company because of that exact thing, right? It's always, always, always better to own a portion of something huge than it is to own all of something that is struggling and not succeeding. You can sit there right now and write out what your weaknesses are. I know you can. I can do it. Find people to replace or to come in and partner and become and make your company better because they fill those things that you were not good at. Josh, thank you. All right. Well, that was fun. HackTheEntrepreneur.com/review. You have to try this. If you haven't tried this yet and you're on an iPhone right now, which 51% of you are, go to Hack the Entrepreneur. I know it's hard to spell entrepreneur and stuff, but we can do it. I can't tell you how, but it's HackTheEntrepreneur.com/review. It will take you right to this special place in iTunes. You can leave a rating and a review. Doesn't have to be 5 stars. I don't. Make it honest. But tell me how you feel. I'd love to hear. And it helps the show within iTunes so much. It helps get more exposure. It helps me get better guests for you. HackTheEntrepreneur.com/review. It'll be fun. All right. I won't take any more of your time. It's been an absolute blast. I thank you for stopping by as always. And please, until next time, keep hacking the entrepreneur.